So here are the notes for number 10 in your, what is it? It's homework number 8, I believe, if it's fall of 2024. So I will copy these notes down as I'm doing it. So this video will be for number 10 in your packet. All right, so to create a truth table that's more complicated than just the 4 basics that we did right before these problems, you look at the original statement and you're building it up from left to right, and you're starting with the most basic elements of the complete statement, and you're building it up one little bit at a time, so then the next largest one, then the next largest one, etc. So the first thing you do is you need columns for every single letter proposition. So in this case, I only have a P and a Q, so I only have 2 propositions, and so you have a column for P and you have a column for Q. Okay, and let's just build up the whole upper columns and then, or the upper row, the top row, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so then the next largest statement I have, so I scan through here, I have all my single letters, and then you look for negations. Sometimes you have them, sometimes you don't. And in this case, I'm only negating the not Q. So I need a column for the not Q. And then the next largest component, it just follows orders of operation. So this is a grouping. So this is going to come next. And that happens to be the next largest thing in this particular statement. So I need a column for this. And you can have the parentheses or you don't need to. And finally, in this particular case, the next largest portion happens to be our full statement. It's like the next largest piece. Since I've already done this, the next thing has to do with that implication or the conditional. So you need a column for that. And here you do need the parentheses. Okay, so I've finished it out. And in each column, what happens is there is one operator, right? So in this, the major operator you're dealing with is the conditional, the if statement. And here, the major operational is the and statement, the conjunction. And here, the operation is the negation. Remember, in some texts, the negation is just like that straight line with a blop coming down. And then finally, you have just your original statements. Okay. So you start from left to right, and for your basic propositions in your truth table, you need to deal with or to consider every possibility of combinations of true and false. Okay, so a way to do this, if I just have 2 statements, is to go true, true, false, false for your first one, and then alternate in ones, true, false, true, false. And you'll see what this does. So you should be writing these in your notes. Yeah. Okay. So you see what this does. I have every single way that the trues and the false can play together. I have 2 trues, I have 2 falses, and I have one of each case where there's 1 false and 1 true. Okay. So I've dealt with that. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put column numbers here for every column so that I can refer back to them when I need to. So when I'm looking at the next column, I'm moving left to right. You're always moving, scanning left to right. When I'm looking at the next column, I look back and I go, well, maybe or maybe not that I deal with all the previous columns. In this case, I don't. I can ignore column number 1, and I only have to deal with column number 2, because that's what's pertinent at this particular column. So remember that a negation is just, go back and look at your basics that you just did. A negation is just the opposite truth value of what is negating. Okay, so here I have a true. The opposite of true is, well, I shouldn't do that there. The opposite of true is false. Then for the next one, I have a false. The opposite of false is true. Similarly, I have a true, so it's a false, and I have a false, then it's a true. Okay, I am done with that column. Okay, the 4th column, so now I'm on the 4th column. The major operator is this and statement, the conjunction. Yeah, so that only deals with, let's see, the P column. So I do need this column, and the not Q column. I really don't have to look back at the Q column, so you can sort of blank it out in your mind. Don't do this. Don't do this at home, kids. I only need to look at columns 1 and 3 here. So, but you could write actually in your notes like this. You only need to look at columns 1 and column 3. You don't have to look at column 2 for this case, okay? And let's see, an and statement is only true if they're both true. So let's see, I have a true and I have a false. An and statement is only true if I have two trues, so this has to be a false statement. Boop, let's put a false here. For my next one, I have a true and a true. Oh, look, I have both trues, so this is a true. I'm only true if I'm both true. This is a false and a false, so that's not true. And this is a false and a true, so it's not true, it's false, okay? The only time an and statement is true is if both are true. You can have more than one of these sometimes in a truth table, but in this case, I only have one. I am done with column 4. Then I look at column 5, and I see it involves the Q column, so I do need that. So it involves a Q column, and it involves the P and Q column, so it involves that column. So it's only involving column 2 and 3. So don't scratch these out on your table. I don't have to worry about columns 1 and 3. I only have to deal with or look at columns 2 and 4. So let me get rid of this messiness. And so you could write for column 5, you only have to look back at columns 2 and 4, okay? And you could blank out, you can just remember, I don't have to look at column 1, I don't have to look at column 3, so you can sort of blank those out temporarily in your eyeballs. Okay, when is an implication or a conditional true? So you can go back and refresh your memory on that. And it happens to be, it's true in 3 cases, so 3 of these guys. It's only false in this case, right? If I have, I'm doing this, if I just have P implies Q, yeah? So this might be a little confusing to you. Since I'm only looking at, this is my if Q, then this guy, and if it happens to be true implies false, that's a false statement. So let's go and look. So my first row is true to false. Like, I don't even care what they're called. I just have true implies false, right? And that, I'm saying that's the only time when this is false. So this is the case where it makes a liar of you. You said if the Q happened, then that second part would have happened, but it didn't, so I was lying. The second row, false implies true. This one is just true by default. I never said if Q happened. I'm just looking at the case where Q didn't happen, so I'm not lying. Okay. The third one is T implies F. This was one. I said if Q happens, then the second part happens. I have a true to false, so that guy's a false. And finally, I have false to false. Just by default, vacuously, this is true. Okay. So you have finished your first truth table. Yay.